Hi guys, so today we are in the brand new Mini Electric. So the actual name is Mini Hatch Cooper SE. Basically it is a Cooper S because that's what are on the badges, and there's a little E that you can find in different places of the car. So you know the Mini, it's been around for many years. This is the first Mini sold in Ireland. There used to be another Mini Electric maybe 10 years ago, but it was just a lease, and I think it was just in the US. But this is really brand new and really for everybody. It's sold globally. This Mini is just like any other Mini, so 3.82 meters long, 1.73 meters wide, and it's just a bit higher than the regular Mini because you just have to make some space for the batteries. The good thing about it is just not the batteries are not taking space in the cabin or in the boot or nowhere else. So in terms of usability, this Mini is just the same as any other Mini. Today we're going to do a little drive around city, and then I'll drive on the N road all the way to Limerick, and I'll take a bit of motorway and then back to country roads and motorway again on the M8. So just a loop. I'll have to make a charge obviously, because this car will not be able to do too much on one charge, but at least we're going to be able to see a bit how this car behaves in different situations. So before talking about the way the car behaves in a city, on a road or motorway, let's first have a look at the spec sheet. So the battery is not huge. So this is 32.6 kilowatt hours. That's gross capacity. Net capacity is 28.9. So it is kind of small in 2020 standards. It's smaller than the BMW i3. The current one, and smaller than most of the super minis like the Corsa E, the Zoe, or the E208 from Peugeot. This car, however, is very well priced. So you get a smaller battery, but you get a good pricing as well. In terms of range, the WLTP range is 234 kilometers. So again, that's kind of low, but the car is relatively efficient, so it's not as bad as it could have been regarding the size of the battery. Regarding charging, you've got 11 kilowatt AC charging and also 50 kilowatt DC charging. So this is it is not huge, 50 kilowatt DC charging 2020, but this car is aimed for mostly city driving, so it's not that big a deal. What is important is that it has 11 kilowatt AC charging as standard, so 3-phase charging, and considering the size of the battery, that means you can get a full charge on AC on a street pole for in about 3 hours, even less than that. So that's a really good thing about this car, is that you'll be able to do your commute very easily with the range. It shouldn't be a big issue. It's not a car that you would drive across the country every second day, really. In terms of power, we've got 184 horsepower, so it's similar to the Cooper S diesel or S petrol. So similar performance, similar power. So that's quite a lot for a small car. This powertrain is actually from the BMW i3S. Just the motor, because the car itself is very different. I'm comparing it to the i3S for several reasons. First, it's from the same parent company, BMW Group, so those two cars are somewhat related. But this is based on the regular Mini. It doesn't have any specific chassis like the BMW i3 has. But it's very easy to compare them because a lot of elements are in common. The motor is one of those elements, and because simply they are the only two small premium cars available on the market at the moment. There's nothing else. So they are different battery size and different price points, but it's kind of easy to compare one to another. Also because I've been driving an i3 for the last 2 years, so I kind of know a thing or two about that car, and so it makes it very easy for me to compare. In terms of size compared to the i3, it's a bit smaller. I gave you the dimensions earlier. It's a bit smaller than the i3, and inside you can feel that it's also smaller. It's more cramped. The boot is smaller. It's the roof is a bit lower, and you sit it really down on the road. But it's a very different feeling as well, because the i3 you sit it a bit high up, and this is really very close to the ground, with also like those very good bucket seats. You don't move from this. The i3 is much more like a loungy kind of car. This is much more sporty in a way the Mini does, and I've driven Minis before. It drives just like a Mini, really. So that's a thing to consider as well. If you've been a Mini driver, you won't be disappointed by this car. I'm in the city right now, and let's be honest, the Mini is just perfect for that. So obviously it's short, you've got good visibility all around, and you know, the car is really powerful. So it's 0 to 100 in 7.3 seconds. So that's very quick. Just races off the traffic light. So it's very pleasant here. I can see even there's a bit of traffic. It's very easy to get to change lanes, etc. So it's a really nice car to have there. Now the comfort is a bit of a problem. It's again like any other Mini. It's a bit stiff. It's stiffer than BMW i3. You can really feel the potholes. All right, so I just drove across Cork, and the economy is quite good. I'm at 12.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So in city driving, so that's really good. So the car is really efficient, that's for sure. Another thing that is pleasant about the Mini is that you've got a lot of region. It's very similar to the i3. So you've got one pedal driving, but unlike the i3, you can actually adjust the region, so you can either drive with just one pedal or have a lower region. So that's pretty good. And also there is a different type of regeneration depending on the driving mode you're using. So especially in sports mode, it's much more aggressive. When you lift off the accelerator, you really feel the car braking harder than in the regular eco modes that you have, which are called green and green plus. And the regular mode, the default mode when you drive, is called mid. So now we're on the road, so we're just driving 100 kilometers an hour. So it's quite okay. This road is a bit noisy though, so you might hear it, but soundproofing is good, and the car is probably doing a good job here. So I've just driven about 80 kilometers on the N road between Cork and Limerick, and surprisingly the economy is 12.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which is really low. So it's exactly the same as the section in the city. Reason why? Actually, the average speed is not great. It's a busy road. We're on a Sunday. There's a bit of traffic, so you can rarely drive the maximum speed. So most of the time, been driving around 80, 90, sometimes less than 80. At the moment, with less than 80. So it's not very fast. And we'll reset later for the motorway section. We'll see if it's better. But I'm really surprised, especially compared to the i3. I mean, 12.6 kilowatt hours per 100, even in summer, it's really low on the road. So I believe that even though the Mini is 100 kilograms heavier than the i3, it's a bit more, aerodynamic and low. So it might actually be better on the road, whereas the i3 would be better in the city because it's lighter and the aerodynamics do not matter that much at low speed. So that's my theory. Anyway, we'll reset the meter, and then we'll see on the motorway how it is, and if it's still very good. I just have to say, I just checked the windy application. There is no headwind, no tailwind, so it's 12.6. We even have a bit of side wind, but it's a fair consumption there. So I'm really impressed. Anyway, let's see a bit later how it goes with the motorway section. All right, so we just arrived in Bird Hill here. So I left Cork, so that's about 130 kilometers away, and just arrived here now. The last section was the motorway section, about 30 kilometers. The consumption was under 18 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. So that was actually a bit of tailwind with us. So it kind of played in our favor, but still it's very low. I was driving 120 kilometers an hour all the way, so you know, couldn't cheat much on this. Now we arrived with 39% battery here. After 130 kilometers, that means you can have 200 kilometers of range in summer. That seems to be doable with normal driving conditions. So I would drive slower personally on the motorway, because usually it's not really sustainable to do 120 in an electric car unless you have a Tesla or something really aerodynamic with a big battery. But it's very good. So now we're gonna charge. So because thank you Apple Green in Bird Hill, this is free, so it's always nicer when it's free, right? And what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna take the back road and drive through Milchestown. So we'll see how this car does on the smaller roads, and then another piece of motorway between Milchestown all the way back to Cork. So we've been traveling a bit on the smaller R roads. This is a place where the Mini is really at ease. It's very engaging to drive, like any other Mini, and the chassis is really good. The steering is very precise, so it's a very nice car to drive. You want to put it in sport mode, which is actually very aggressive, and also the regen feels stronger. It gets immediately all the power you can get back. It goes 60 kilowatt in its maximum. That's what the gauge says anyway. And so yeah, it's a very pleasant car to drive. Again, compared to the i3, much nicer to drive on smaller roads than the i3. Then there is a difference as well with the i3, is that this is a front-wheel drive as opposed to the i3, which is rear-wheel drive. So you actually have torque steer. So it's the steering is precise, and you've got a lot of feedback in it, so it's nice. But if you just floor it, you just get a lot of torque steer, and even if it's in a straight line and it's dry, it's just not very impressive. I mean, it's just it's part of the fun. It's like the old school hot hatches, I suppose. You have to see it this way. Now the comfort is not great if the road is not flat. That's the issue. So it could be. It's just the comfort. The car is still well on the road, so you wouldn't worry too much about the handling. But it's just the comfort is not great. So just be aware of that. If all those roads were flat, that would be just amazing. So that's it for the consumption. Sorry, around still the same. I'm around 14 because I've been quite aggressive with my driving, I'd say. But you can get under 13 definitely. Just the same way as we did before, the city driving or the driving on the N road as well. We're in Milchestown now, so we're gonna get back on the motorway and do the last bit in motorway, but that shouldn't be very complicated. Plenty of range, of course, and then we will talk about the interior and the different features of the vehicle. Okay guys, let's have a quick walk around the exterior of the Mini Electric. So a few things you need to know. So first, as I was saying, the age of the car is 15 millimeters raised compared to the ICE version. So that's an important thing to know. But there are some plastic elements that kind of hide it, so you don't, I mean, unless you know about it, you wouldn't really notice. A difference is the grille here, or the lack of it. So there is this element that replaces the open grill that are the ICE version. The yellow elements you see on this one can be opted out. So you can have your Mini looking like a regular, you mean your electric Mini just looking like a regular petrol one. Even the wheels, so those are specific to the electric versions. And actually those are called Corona wheels. The name was actually removed a few months ago, but when it was launched, that's the name that they gave to those wheels. But those very wheels that which are specific can also be opted out, and you can have the same wheels as the regular Mini. You just have the little yellow round in the middle. You have to keep this, but for the rest it can look really normal. The charging port is here on the rear. So the car is charging at the moment. So it's one of those charging ports I really like, because you just have to open it with your hand here. Just push it and it will just open. And every EV should be like this. You don't need a specific button on the remote or on the dashboard. It should open like this. It's basically linked to the central locking of the car. So if all the doors are open, then you can just open it. And if the door is locked, then it's locked as well. It should be just as simple as this. Moving on to the back, you've got the British flag on the taillight. It's not great maybe for some, but you know, you have to be aware of this. This is standard on all models. You can't really avoid it. Here it is with light on. So yeah, you have to be aware of that. You've got a badge on the back. So on the left hand side, a little E badge, we can see there, and then on the right hand side it's written Cooper S in yellow. You also have two fog lights in the back, and like the petrol version, there's typically just the one in the middle. So as you can see here, it's really a compact car, 3.82 meters long. So great for around the city, and maybe not so much in the interior though. Now let's open the boot. Okay, so it's Mini. So here you can fit just one cabin luggage really. It's not very large, it's smaller than the i3, maybe a bit higher, but it's not deep and it's not square, so you will not put a lot of stuff. However, there's a very handy here on the storage, and the good thing is like you can just lock this shelf up, so if you have higher things to carry, you've got a deeper opening there, so you can put your cables below. So here we've got the first aid kit and then the cables. So yeah, that's quite handy to hide your cables. Here we are inside the Mini Electric. So the first thing I want to show you is this display in front of us. So this digital cockpit is available standard on all electric Minis, and it's actually an option on the petrol ones. So it's very readable. That's really cool. So on the left hand side you've got the power gauge, so very easily. So here you've got your kind of neutral, if you're not accelerating or decelerating. This is when you're charging, and this is the power gauge. So very clear. At the moment the car is charging, so you can see 21% in the middle and 31 kilometers of range. This shows only when you are charging. And on the right hand side, that's also the other gauge. It's not really precise because they are like blocks of 12.5%, so it's kind of redundant because you also get the actual percentage, but you know, that's the way it goes. And then I cannot show you now because the car is charging, but you can also have the typical trip computer element. So you've got your average consumption, instant consumption. It shows the regen as well, so you know how many kilowatt you're instantly putting back into the battery. So that's quite useful. Now, moving to the doors. So I'm just gonna open the door to show you that. All right, so that's just like the normal Mini. You've got your electric windows and mirrors, and you can fold your mirrors. You can see some ambient lighting within the door handle here. So you've got a few colors you can choose from, and they actually change with the type of driving mode that you're using. Here you've got the navigation screen. So simply you've got your Mini connected, so everything that is around the everything connected. So you can actually, on this very version, make an online search. So if you search a particular place, it gets into Google and finds it, and then will send you to the navigation. Of course, this is the menu with all the settings of the car. That's the regular navigation. Of course, your Bluetooth communication and notification when you receive the different messages. So this actually infotainment system is very close to the one in the BMW i3. So it's a typical one. Okay, so moving down here, you've got the climate controls. It's not on at the moment, but yeah, here you go. So it's actually dual zone on this version. So, and then if you go down a bit, you've got a few more interesting switches. So we've got the heated seats there on either side, and then you've got some air conditioning controls, but also the start-stop button, very important obviously, and here the driving modes. So you've got sport, mid, green, and green plus, and then here you've got the regen. So this is, you just press 1 to have less regen, but by default there's a heavy regen, so like a one pedal driving, so that's the default when you start. And then here you've got the mid as default when you start, and you have to change every time when you drive if there is another mode that you wish to have. So I'll show you there on the top. So that's the green one, green plus. So go back up to the green, mid, the default one, and the sports one. And here actually you can actually configure it. So let's see if we can do that. Configure, yeah. So you can select the maximum speed. So just like the BMW 3, it's the exact same. So you can put the maximum speed. It's like a speed limiter. And then green climate control on or off. So that means that the climate control is going to be a bit more lazy, a bit more slow to get into temperature. So you can remove that if you are in winter maybe. So yeah, that's it. So here you've got the steering wheel controls. On the left hand side you've got the cruise control and speed limiter. On the right hand side you've got the media control, so that would be the soundtracks and phone and voice command. I use Spotify, and you can actually select the tracks from the 2 arrows there. So that's quite handy. And there's actually on the driver screen you can see the name of your tracks from Spotify. So that's really good. Moving on to the center console here, you can see at the bottom the controls of the navigation system and multimedia system. There's an electric parking brake, and then you've got the gear lever. So it's not very pretty, but it's very ergonomic, so that's good. The lock button is on the side there, unlock, if you want to go from neutral to reverse or back to drive when you start the car. And then you've got the parking button on top. That's quite it's quite standard. Here we have a little armrest. There's not much space in this one. You cannot put a large phone. It's not going to be flat in there. It's quite narrow storage, but you've got storage below, also a bit narrow. And then you've got 2 cup holders in the front, and there's actually one just behind there. There's one here, and then you've got another 2 on either side of the rear bench. As you can see here, there's not much space. Okay, the front seat is put all the way back, but yeah, there's not much space, let's face it. As you can see as well here, The seats are excellent. They are bucket seats. I mean, I'm an average size person and I felt perfect in them, very snugly. So this is quite good. All right, so this is the end of this this test of the Mini. So what do I think about this vehicle? First, there's an important thing is the price. So this car is under 28,000 euro for the base model. This model, the mid-spec one, is about 31,000, and for about 5 grand extra, you get the top spec. The really cool thing about this Mini Electrics is like, unlike the other Minis, everything is included in those specs. Usually when you get a Mini, you've got all those pack of options, and that brings the price up a lot. In this is actually a lot of kit is already included in those 3 levels. So if you look into the equipment list, you actually get a lot for your money compared to the other versions. And I calculated that compared to a Cooper S petrol automatic, we're talking about 7,000 euro difference. So this is cheaper, 7,000 euro, than the equivalent petrol version. And we're not even starting with the running costs, which are much lower, obviously. That's the same for the diesel, and even with the base regular Cooper with a manual gearbox, this is cheaper. So that's a great proposition, and this puts it against the other EVs like the Zoe and the Corsa E and the E28. Even though it's slightly better equipped than those other super minis. Of course, the Peugeot, the Opel, and the Renault, they have more range, and they do have a bigger cargo and inside room. But if the range is not that important for you, and if you don't care about having a small boot, then the Mini is really a great bargain. So the other car you can compare it to is, of course, again, the BMW i3, and the i3 is like a 10,000 euro more expensive in the base model that is not better equipped than this. So for similar performance, you will have, of course, a better range on the i3, but it's not going to be 100 kilometers more, and it's still 10,000 euro extra. So think about the Mini if you're looking for a small EV, one of the cheapest EVs around, and good quality product. Really, it feels great inside, and it's really fun to drive. So it's really something you might consider. I hope you like this review. Please leave us a comment in the section below, and stay tuned for another test drive. Thank you.